And if anybody likes, if just one or two words that people can just say about how you feel in your body. Just a word.
Calm.
Relaxed, calm, feel free, peaceful, grounded, concentrated, happy and curious, liberated. Okay. What is tired? Very real. Yes, tired. Of course. Sunday morning. Oh, so you found that it reduced. Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah. Creative. So you, in your body, is that a sensation?
Yeah, I was able to come up with different line of thought way. I was looking at the surroundings.
Very good. A different line of thought popped into
Something
your
that
awareness.
not
Come before.
though I've observed something that I've not kind of what do I say, come into.
Yeah.
So that process was extremely creative for me.
Oh, interesting. So just again noticing, that you've all heard each other and just taking like a minute or so maybe to just look around. And some stretches, I think you make some mental and just investigate what movement you'd like to make. It could be micro movements or maybe stillness to feel more comfortable. There might be parts of your body that feel more settled than others, and just notice both. Right? There might be parts of you all that feel restless, might be want to move. And beginning to notice the air going in and coming out. So not doing anything with the breath, just notice the air going in and coming out. So we're starting to notice what's being done for us without doing anything. And if it's too much, if it feels like too much, then just look around and go to some other sensation. So I have this interesting way of connecting with the breath. If anybody wants, you all can follow along, right? I just interlace my fingers and then imagine that this is like the diaphragm. And as I inhale, elbows go up. Exhaling, dropping the elbows. So it's almost like a mirroring of the diaphragm's movement. Just do it a few times. Investigating the rhythm of your breath. Natural. Exhaling, elbows down, inhaling, elbows up. Might be settling for some, it might not be for others, and feel free not to do this. You don't have to be stuck trying it because I suggest it. I can't do it. So if you feel like it's good for you. So when Anjana had invited me to speak about breath, and the Creative Mornings team kindly offered this chant. What came to mind was the work of this amazing neuroscientist called Stephen Porges, and he has worked on finding out about our nervous system, right? The stuff that you're experiencing now with me together here, and how it's in the background determining our everyday experience. Okay? And so when Porges If you all remember biology, right? We have the central nervous system, we have the peripheral nervous system, and in the peripheral nervous system, we have the autonomic part, right? We have also the somatic nervous system. We're not going to go there today. We're looking at the autonomic nervous system. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. And if you all remember what the autonomic nervous system is from biology from school? No.
Very hard.
Very hard, no? So,
Remember that it's the autonomous
autonomous.
nervous system was.
Yeah. So like it's automatic, right? Autonomous reminds you of automatic. No, yes.
Reflexes.
So reflexes is one part, and that's the somatic part.
The one controls all the heart, kidney, everything.
Yes, all of that, right? So it's the part that we don't control with our thinking mind. It's what's happening for us deep beneath our awareness. And the autonomic, so for instance, simply put, if I plan to go for a walk, right? Then I plan it, I execute it, I find the time to go. All of this, I use the logical thinking language parts of my brain. But then when I am on the walk, and as my walk gets more heated up, then it is my autonomic nervous system that decides when to have me start sweating. It's my autonomic nervous system that modulates my heart rate to accommodate for this walk, right? It dilates my pupils. It does the things that supports this activity that I choose to do with my cortical brain, right? That's the autonomic nervous system. And it's working for us every microsecond of the day. Even as we sit here, the autonomic nervous system, one of its main jobs is to keep surveying our environment for cues of safety and for cues of danger. Because we are mammals. Yeah, we're humans and all, but basically we're animals, right? Right? And we are social animals. We are mammals that require each other, cues from each other to know if we're safe or we're not safe, right? So our evolution, our biological system has been designed to support states of safety, right? In which we can thrive, collaborate, talk, build, be pro-social, right? And then when there's cues of danger, like a leopard case, or there's some suspicious event or person or natural disaster, then we can't be pro-social. What we do instead is our energy, our biological energy is shunted towards defensive behaviors. Behaviors that support survival through defensive strategies, right? So two states. And we always we're passing through the spectrum of these two states. Protection when it's needed. And then when we don't need protection, then moving to a state which is downregulated defensive states and upregulated states of safety, right? So the single thing that we need, that's the foundation of feeling, of building relationships, of feeling connected, is feeling safe in our bodies. And I think that's the important piece here that's maybe not so much there in traditional psychology, traditional mental health. And now it's coming in with a force, which is that we can't leave out the body because it's in the body that we feel safe, not so much in the mind. I don't know, have you noticed that sometimes you'll want to do things? This happens with me, right? I want to execute certain things. I want myself to be awake, but my body doesn't agree. Right? There's so much nodding. So this is a common experience, right?
Especially waking up on a Sunday.
I hear you. Yeah. So all of that, right? Sometimes we're saying, no, everything is good. This person has been kind, but there is anger, or there is fear, or there is, we're wary, or we're not able to let our guard down, right? All of this is the body. Okay, so we can try telling it, don't. It is after all safe, but no, something else is happening which is deeper. And So Porges, this scientist, so there are 3 organizing principles of how he has found our autonomic nervous system to work, right? Unfortunately, I don't have the slides, so I'm just going to talk, and if it feels like it's going in too deep, then pull me out, yeah. So the first is that beneath our awareness, we are all constantly surveying our environment, and this is neuroception, so it's before perception. Perception is still something we do with our mind. And neuroception is when we are, I always know that there's no earthquake because my ears are tuned to that, right? I know that this place is safe because there are no loud screams, right? But if there were a scream just now, then I'd stop talking to all of you and I'd be on my way to run, right? My energy has already shifted to protect my body. And all of us have this, and we are constantly surveilling our environment beneath our perception. The second principle of this theory is that we have a hierarchy, okay? And this is where it's interesting. The hierarchy works like this. It's evolutionary, the way this hierarchy, because there is one system that we use for our defense, which is the oldest. It's 500 million years old in our body, right? Which is the immobilization, right? You know how reptiles become very still, like onans and all, they won't move at all, right? That's classic immobilization, where if there's too much, okay, so let me go at this through danger, okay? Yeah. So now we're sitting here and we're talking, and if there is a sound in my environment that feels like I can look at it and I can check it out, that's my first way to interact, which is I turn toward the sound and look at it, right? So my eyes give me information. Is this safe? Is this dangerous? First step. Second step, if it is safe, then I welcome it. So when we find that we are safe, we welcome it. We get connected with it. We are curious about it. We want to check it out. We go into our environment and check it out. If it's not so safe, or if it's iffy, we don't know, it could be 50-50, then we negotiate with it with some watchfulness, right? That's when I'm no longer in, my autonomic state has shifted to watchfulness. And if it's dangerous and my body decides this is not good to hang around, let me try running away. Or let me try and fight, right? That's when my body state shifts, my autonomic state shifts. Fight it or to run away from it, right? And at that point, I'm not interested in talking to this person or talking to this place or whatever, right? I just need to negotiate with lots of energy. And then if my body perceives that this is inescapable, I cannot fight this, I cannot flee it, then we step back into our evolutionary timeline and we use a state that's very old, and that's the immobilization state, right? Where I play dead. And the hope with this is that whatever this danger is, right? It could be human, it could be non-human, it could even be my internal thoughts, like an inner critic telling me I'm not good enough, whatever. It can be a sign of danger from the mind, it can be a sign of danger from the environment, right? Then I feign death. And this is not something I can control with my thinking mind, my body decides it. I play dead so that the danger will pass. Usually what this feels like in the body is numbness, despair, feeling alone, feeling cut off, not experiencing any option, be it in your thoughts, be it in your environment. The body goes into a state of, like a turtle going into its shell, right? Is this familiar to some of you?
Yes.
It's familiar.
We also have micro pets, right? Like
Micro
every day,
pets.
danger is there,
Yeah.
but you have small, like, this is the routine, but there are interruptions in our routine. So
Yes.
how does the body perceive those?
Yeah. So through the day, we have small autonomic shifts, right? Like a message from someone, there's happiness, there's more coming into the ventral vagus. So it's called the ventral vagus state when we are using our ventral vagus, right? So let me get to that a little bit, Anjana. So in the autonomic nervous system, you have parasympathetic, sympathetic, ringing a bell, sort of, right? The sympathetic nervous system is all here. So you can actually take your palms and you can touch this thoracic region, right? The spinal nerves. This is the sympathetic region, right? Of course, it goes to its target organ. This is the system that helps us to move, to do stuff with our hands, legs, run through space, fight, all of those things. Sympathetic nervous system helps movement, passion, play, right? Now, the dorsal vagal system is subdiaphragmatic. It's underneath our diaphragm. It innervates all our viscera, gut, digestion. So when it's resting, the dorsal vagal's job is to help us to digest, sleep well, recover. That's when, homeostatic function. It's helping us to stay alive. The dorsal vagal helps us to rest, digest. If there's threat, the dorsal vagal, how does it protect us? It shuts down. It helps us to feign death. So micro threats, maybe, you're going to use your sympathetic with a micro threat because you don't need to use this.
You're getting late to office.
You're getting late to office, then you rush, right? You mobilize, you stop talking to people, you snap at people if they ask you questions when you're rushing out to work. You're like, oh, not now, right? That's sympathetic. No, it's go, 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 action, action. At that point, you can't build relationships, etc. Right? Familiar, right? And when you calm down, when you start perceiving that it's safe here, then the action comes down a little bit, and you're able to actually see faces, meet people, talk, hear your own thoughts, connect. And it isn't this is over here, the entire ventral vagal system of connection is eyes, ears, throat, and heart. It helps to keep our heart rate slow, right? And calm. It's the system that's the newest system. It's only, I think, 200 million years old. It's not as old as our dorsal vagal, right, which is reptilian, very much older. And our sympathetic is 400 million years old. So we've retained these systems. One system has been built on another. And so there's this hierarchy. We first negotiate threat through talking using our ventral vagus, which is here. And then, okay, it's not getting negotiated. Then we use sympathetic. Let's run away from this person or place, or let's fight this person or place. Shucks, that's not working either. Okay, let's just go away from our body. Right? Let's float away. And psychologically speaking, sometimes it's called dissociation, right? And in a more biochemistry way, it can even be tonic immobility. There are some resources, but it's all on the slide. Anyway, but it's okay, right? I don't know if you've seen videos of predator-prey where, like a possum or a deer, when it's running away from a leopard or a tiger, it's in great sympathetic glory, right? It's running at full speed. But then when the predator has caught it, its last defense system comes into place, which is immobilization. It plays dead, right? It's not something it thinks about, it just happens for it. It sort of lies down, and then the predator loses interest. It's like, I don't want to eat dead meat. Who wants dead meat? And it just sort of sniffs it and goes away. And then the creature, after a while, after the tonic immobility of its muscles finishes protecting it, it gets up and it shakes. So here's the hierarchy again. It can't just go into safety without the shaking. It needs to climb back up the way it went down. So first is orienting, checking for safety, broadcasting, looking around. Next, there's a predator, let's run. Next, let's play dead. Lion's gone away, tiger's gone away, whatever it is has gone away. Then it shakes, it experiences a flood of energy in its system. And when that's done, it comes back to safety. It comes back to baseline. The heart rate comes back in regulation. So the good news is that we have a predictable hierarchy of moving through this ladder, I'm going to call it a ladder, throughout our day. And there's actually this passage I have, which I can read out to go with Arjana's question, which is how do we negotiate the micro threats of our day, right? What I can do is I can read, it's a small passage, and if you all can guess where you are on the ladder, right? Just guess. So is the image of the ladder coming? Like at the top is the ventral vagal, safety and connection. Then you have sympathetic in the middle, and then you have dorsal vagal immobilization, right? I'm not here. Believe me, right? So what might a real life example of moving up and down the autonomic ladder look like? Oh, I moved out of my spot. Okay. Is this
Right.
okay? Okay. So I'm driving to work in the morning, and I'm listening to the radio and enjoying the beginning of the day. Where am I on the ladder? Top, middle, bottom?
Top.
Top. Yes. When a siren sounds behind me.
Middle.
Middle. Right. And then I feel my heart is racing. Right? My heart races, and immediately I worry that I've done something wrong. So I'm staying in the middle, right? I'm still hyper vigilant. I'm like, shucks, this can go anyway. I should be ready. I pull over, and the police car rushes past me. I pull back out and resume my drive to work and feel my heart begin to return to its normal speed. So where am I on my ladder?
Top.
Yeah, I'm coming back up, right? I'm coming back to safety, connection with myself. Yeah. By the time I get to work, I have forgotten about the incident and I'm ready for my day. So I'm still at the top of my ladder. Yeah. Now I'm having dinner with my friends and I'm enjoying the conversation with them and the fun of being out with people like me, right? So where am I on my ladder? Top. Yes. The conversation turns to vacations. The topic of discussion becomes vacations. And I start comparing my situation to my friends' situations. I begin to feel angry that I can't afford a vacation, that my job doesn't pay enough, and that I have so many unpaid bills. I'll never be able to take a vacation. So, how is my state becoming?
Middle.
Yeah, it's coming to the middle and going down. It's actually starting to go down quite a bit. I sit back and I watch as my friends continue to talk about trips and travel planning. I disconnect from the conversation, right? I disconnect from the conversation and I begin to start feeling invisible, right? And the talk goes on around me, but I feel like nobody can see me now. Where am I on my ladder?
Bottom.
I'm at the bottom. I'm really using my last defensive strategy, which is I'm a turtle, I've gone in, right? The evening ends with my friends not noticing my silence and with me feeling like a misfit, right? I feel like I don't fit in, I don't belong. That's a theme of being at the bottom of the ladder. I don't belong, right? I feel like a misfit in the group. I go home and I crawl into bed. Now the only place that I know is the bottom of the ladder. It's conservation mode. It's a mode that helps me to survive, right? Bringing all the energy into just the minimum that I can get by. Yeah. The next morning I wake up and I don't want to get up and go to work. So where am I on the ladder? Still at the bottom. Yes, I don't want to go to work. I worry I'll get fired if I don't show up, and so I drag myself out of bed. So some energy is coming back, right? I start moving towards work. I take a shower. So I'm starting to move up the ladder because there's energy, there's sympathetic movement. Yeah. I'm late to work. My boss comments on my lateness, and I have a hard time holding in an angry response. Where am I? I'm in the middle now. I'm starting to feel like punching my boss, right? Yeah. And I decide I've had enough of this job, right? What's that? I decide I've had enough of this job. Middle, I'm starting to fight, right? I'm fighting now, there's energy in my body. I decide I've had enough of this job and I will seriously look for a new one. I'm still moving up my ladder, right? I begin to consider the skills I can bring to another job. And then I start to think, maybe I can pay my bills if I do this job. I start looking at options, right? And then maybe I can even take a vacation. So I call a friend out for lunch, and then we talk about our jobs and our dreams for the future. So where am I on my ladder now? I've come back to the top. So this is a small experience of how our autonomic state helps us through the day, right? Through like a regular normal day. And the interesting thing is, the more we track where we are, the better we become at knowing the connection between the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, about our lives, right? And how the story comes from the state. This is an interesting bit. So, to illustrate this, supposing I made a mistake today, not that I came with a script, but if I did have a mugged up script, and I goofed up, and I didn't say what I wanted to say. Now, if I was in a sympathetically activated state to be here with all of you, if my body said, shucks, this crowd is actually scary, right? And I made a mistake. Then the story I would tell myself is, oh, I'm an idiot. Why did I leave out the most important part? Everybody is looking and now I've made this mistake. What an idiot I am. That is a very sympathetically charged story. And it comes from my state. Not so much my psychology, but my state. Now, if I was already in a state where there is a lot of dorsal vagal tone, right, high, not a balanced tone, but very high tone, and if I made that mistake, then I would go into a deeper shutdown. And I would say, why do I even talk in front of people? I'm such a loser. I should just stop. I knew this is going to happen. Right? Very different story, very different energy, but same message. Yeah?
I just had a question.
Yes.
Sometimes you try to shift the blame on the crowd. You could say like crowd was like totally scary or like. I could be right. We have sensed that we've been there where we didn't find the crowd very receptive,
Yeah.
and then you kind of like automatically in response to that you shut down. So where does it come
Yeah,
from?
so then if that kind of a situation, right? It's how I tell the story. So now if I decide that the crowd is really the problem, I'm still in a fight, right? I'm still like, no, that's what went wrong. It's how I tell the story. It's the energy of my story that makes the story in the first place. I'm inviting you to look at it like that, which is, it is my state that powers my story, not usually the other way around. And this is where somatic experiencing digresses from traditional psychotherapy or traditional talk therapy, which is you can keep talking your state into being, but it's actually the body up, right? The body is first. We need to actually make the body feel safe. Now, if I was in a more balanced, if I was in a place of safety, and I was thinking, this is okay, they're all just human beings like me, we're all here together, it's actually lovely, and I make a mistake, then I might say, yeah, I made that mistake, but it's okay. We don't go through life not making mistakes. And this crowd's not going to eat me out if I make it. Maybe I'll bring it in later, maybe it was good enough, maybe there'll be a joke there, right? That is that's a ventral vagal powered story, right? It's a story where I have the resilience to go with that mistake. It doesn't take me down my ladder. I still feel I can connect. I still feel like I can be safe. Even though I've made a mistake, it's still a story of connection. So that's the interesting part. Same event. I forgot to say a few lines, but 3 different stories powered by 3 different states. So if there's any question here, sure.
So, does it mean that you unconsciously or however you sense your environment? To that, your body is responding, and from that response, you are trying to build a narrative.
Yes, it's something like that. That's a very nice paraphrase, right? That it's the body's state in whichever situation. And then from there, we bring our perception to our neuroception, which is always working. Neuroception is at a neural level, right? I bring my perception to it, which is, I'm talking now, but my heart rate's still fast. And I wonder why, because I know these guys. So there's something else here, right? So yes, it is bringing your perception to your stage. It is looking at your narrative through the lens of the body, right? So somatic narrative, not just thinking. That's what we look at.
Practical another experience.
Yes.
In a game of golf. I don't know how many of this playing a game of golf. That's can be the easiest game or the hardest game.
Mm-hmm.
It's about hitting a stationary ball straight at a target, and it's amazing how many different outcomes can be there. When you're actually standing over top of the ball and you're thinking, oh my God, where is this going to go? Is it going to go left or right or this is not going to go straight, that's it. I mean, I can imagine it's the bottom, which is at the worst part is shutting down. Right?
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where it gets so bad that okay, screw it, like this is it. And the next shot is really fantastic because it comes straight from the top.
Yeah.
So even within a game of 18 holes, it's like spans 4 hours. You go through a different states. Is practically I can relate to what you said as an activity, and it's a sport, but it's such a.
It has all of this, right? So that's an important point, which is that we actually go through these states in our day in micro shifts throughout the day to have the right response to our environment, to the people in our environment, right? 3 places: inside the body, outside the body, and between bodies. So 3 things are constantly being surveyed. Am I safe in my body? Are the people here safe? Is my environment safe? 3 things at all times, micro shifts being made for that. And it's the ratio. If your shifts are mostly in the safe place, then you feel better. Your immunity is better, your digestion is better, your sleep's better, your appetite's on. Right? If you spend most of your day, if the ratio of your day is mostly in the sympathetic, then there are the accompanying problems around that, and that's what we call stuckness. And what we mean by stuckness is that the range to move through the states with ease, with appropriate, right? In the situation, in the response, in the situation, in the response, in the response, right? When we're stuck because we can't shift state, and this isn't something we can do with our conscious mind. That's where we need to go into body work, right? Then we call ourselves stuck. I'm still not feeling safe. Everything here is well, but I'm still feeling really shifty or not okay. Right? That's the reality. Some of us have that. All of us have that at different points of our lives. It's not some of us. It's actually, and there are fancy words for it. This is like trauma, etc. But actually, it just means that one of the states that are here in service of your survival, one of these states just doesn't know how to come down. It just doesn't know how to go off. And this could be because of events in our past, sometimes the events of our childhood, of our adolescence. Maybe we had too much danger, maybe we had too little safety, maybe it was some big events that occurred in our lives, right? Too much too soon, or too little for too long, or too much for too long. Any of these 3 things could have happened in our lives. And that sort of shapes our autonomic nervous system away from connection and into protection. And so we find what we call being stuck in 1 or 2 of the states, or sometimes in a combination where you feel shut down also, but you feel revved up also. It's an uncomfortable place. But that's because, sometimes our life histories have shaped our nervous system because we didn't have the enough amount of safety, either between people or in the environment itself. And that moved us into a place of protection. So it's not a disease first model. This is a body first model. That when we are stuck, we're actually stuck in a state of protection. It's not bad or good. It's just here for your survival. And maybe there's a different way of doing it now. But when we work with the body, it feels different. So that makes sense. Yeah.
We're talking about micro routine of us sitting here, 18 September, 10 a.m., December 2022, sitting here and talking about how we're feeling about the environment at the present time. And how our autonomous and non-autonomous systems are acting, and how it is shaped all these years.
Yes.
And say the same time, 2021, how has it been? Like, does our autonomous and non-autonomous system have accumulations of memory, and how does it evolve? How does it go through the transition? And you said it's some million years old and it passes down generations, and we've learned from our previous generations. how to adapt, reciprocate, and all those, and feed us with information with what we will see, what we will perceive. How does this transition happen? How does this, let us leave previous generations off, but then when we talk about the larger routine, say annual routine or something like biannual routine, how does the transition happen? Connections of memory, say that I reacted the same way for a similar situation last year in a different way, then I'm acting something that is totally not acceptable by my own consciousness. So,
Yeah. So I think there were 2 or 3 questions in what you asked. So I'll go with the last one, which is, do we have, does memory play a role, right? And here memory is very important because the autonomic nervous system, when we're born, we need safety and co-regulation from our caregiver. So usually it's the mother or the father or any other caregiver. It needs co-regulation before self-regulation. So we can't self-regulate unless we've had enough experiences of co-regulation, right? Now, if we've not had that, then our nervous system starts shaping itself in our lifetime, not even generationally, but in my lifetime, if I didn't get enough safety growing up, then my nervous system keeps firing pathways of protection, either sympathetic protection or fighting. Okay, so I might be very aggressive, I might act out, right? Or I might be firing a lot of pathways of shutdown, right? I'll be quiet, compliant, just don't see me, I'm not here, I'm dead. And yeah, sure, my body's alive, but I'm not here, I'm numb, I don't have feelings, right? So that can be another pathway that I go into. And chances are I'll be a person who, because it's wired so often, it's fired. That's the groove of my nervous system pattern. That's where
for
the word
example,
pattern
a person
comes
who
in.
does not have either of the parents, both parents,
Yeah, or even has parents that
by their
are
own way.
safe enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, parents not enough parental or not the right kind of parental. So many combinations, or in other situations where the environment itself is lacking enough safety. So you don't need everything to be 120%. We're much more resilient than we think. Right? Then our nervous system is shaped more towards protection than connection. So that spectrum level, you'll be more on the protective side than on the connecting, being able to connect side. So then you'll find that you don't experience a lot of options. You don't, everything, there'll be a lot of black and white thinking. So psychologically, there's like all or nothing thinking. It's all good or it's all loss. I am an idiot, I'm defective. There's nothing this way, right? It'll be all or nothing thinking. See the narratives inside, not just what's in their mind, right? So, but when we come into safety, we start seeking options, collaborating with others. We can talk about our distress, right? All of these things are behaviors that are enabled only when we feel safe. So safety is the most important requirement that our autonomic nervous system keeps searching for. More than love, more than all of those more abstract things, the animal body looks for safety, right? At its depth, at its core. That's what we need first. And the cues of safety, this was, I don't know if it came in your question, but how we look for safety is through our senses. Is through neuroception. I'm looking at everybody's gaze, but there's a part of my brain that's interpreting your gaze, right? If somebody is going to be staring at me weirdly with a fixated gaze now, right, and maybe baring their teeth, right, I know nothing can happen, but I'm going to be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking away from you. I don't know why I did that, but it's interesting, right? Anyway, so maybe there's something on my right side, not anybody here, okay? So y'all are absorbed. It's just my right side, yeah. But then it could be that, right? Then I am going to notice that underneath that, oh, this is great, but that person a little bit weird. There's something that's already noting that for me without me thinking so much about it.
I have a follow-up to that.
Sure.
Also something that we spoke about earlier when we said, when we spoke about what happens if you forget to mention something that you prepared.
Yeah.
Kind of beat yourself up. And Auntie also mentioned that there are tendencies where you kind of switch it up on others, right? So is this a form of overriding our what the body is feeling, like by the mind? Does that generally happen when you're sensing danger? Does your mind override it and say this is probably not that? This is you're just thinking of it that way. You're conditioned to think of everything as danger around you and things like that. How does that work? Because I observe a lot of times we generally don't listen to our body even when the cues are there. We kind of still go about doing certain things that we shouldn't be doing for our body, right? So, and a lot of habits related to that tend to happen. And despite knowing that this is not working for you, this is not good for you, you tend to stick to those habits.
Yes.
So, is this some kind of overriding by the mind, or
Yes.
how does that?
So this is a really good point, right, that you raised, because that is part of, especially in today's culture, which is very sympathetic in its tone, right? Do more, right? We are not tuned. We're not also helped to tune in to enough. We don't know what enough feels like. Forget, right? Somebody else decides for us enough. Ivlo padchachu podum, or 1 hour padchachu. But these are all artificial notions of enough, right? We don't feel it in our system that I'm not hungry anymore, or I'm not thirsty, or I'm done talking. I would like to stop, or I would like to sleep, right? We don't know enough. So this overriding that you speak of is so prevalent, right? And when you say overriding, I like that word because you are talking about overriding the autonomic need for something else. Usually it's a parasympathetic response of rest, digest, recovery, or just different ways of saying enough. Right? So that overriding is there, and it is something that many of us are routinely doing to ourselves, right? And it's a pattern that's sort of wired now because it's firing all the time. It's rewarded for being fired. Like, oh, she doesn't care. She's sick, but she came to work, right? It's like that's the culture that we are in. So if that answers your question.
Yes. I also have another question.
Yeah.
Just like how they say, either we override or either we follow our own response from our non-autonomic system.
Yeah.
There'll be an impact followed by whatever we respond to.
Yeah.
Even if we are overriding, or either we are following whatever our feelings. Like, say for example, guilt. Guilt is like something in between the first immediate response and something that we do to overcome that. How does that happen in layers? Does it happen?
It happens in layers. Like you said, it's very layered. There can be so much in guilt itself. There can be layers of anger, there can be layers of sadness. So guilt is a complex emotion. Is that your question? Is guilt layers or?
Like, does our autonomous system act in layers, and does it?
Yes, it does. So there are layers. Okay, so when we look at the autonomic nervous system, right, an organized system would be a step function, right? I'm safe, I'm able to talk, I'm able to listen, I'm able to orient to my environment like an animal. Like a cat, dog looks around, sniffs, then decides it's safe, then can eat. Step function, something is dangerous, I go into fight, flight, more energy in the system, right? Next step function. Not working, flee, fighting, go into lots of energy and shut down. Actually, shutdown has a lot of energy in it. Counterintuitive, but it's true. Shutdown has a lot of energy, right? So this is an organized system. And just like any other mammal, I can also step down. I come down, people measure your vagal tone, they measure your heart rate to see how you come back. Now where the layering comes in is that unfortunately with human beings, it's not as straightforward as animals, which in their environment get to shake off their energy, right? when they are in shutdown, when there's tonic immobility, you'll see many animals actually shake, run more, finish off, complete their bodily cycle of sympathetic. Right? You see this in dogs, cats, right? Then they come to resting baseline. But human beings, we have so many social injunctions, we can't just randomly shake or move. We're supposed to sit one way, walk one way. We believe these things. So it's hard for us to come down in an organized way to a resting state. So then this energy gets trapped in our system like layers. Right? In layers we have activation stored in us. And then this word called trigger comes in. When like the color of blue, if I may take your t-shirt or your shirt color, it reminds me of a horrible teacher of my childhood, right? And I feel anger, fear, shutdown, all of those things triggered by your shirt. And because there's that energy in my system, then in my present moment, a lot of layers become activated in my body now when I see the shirt. So that's the layering coming to work. My system is not so organized that her shirt's in the here and now. She's somebody I've just met today. It's a lovely shirt. Right? I don't have, those systems are not available to me. I can't think like that. That's not available to me. I'm just like nervous. Oh my goodness, that color. Damn it. That's my layers coming to play. That's what we all love to call trauma.
Have this associated with people, right? Or environments. In the office corner, you will have a certain kind of shutdown, which some people happens automatically. Like, oh, things are going to be like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you go, sometimes when you're at a particular family function, you know, oh, this is going to happen. So how does the body cope with that? Rather, how do we cope with that on a everyday basis?
This is such a good question, right? Because you're asking, so what do we do next? Right? Knowing this about ourselves. So one thing that really helps, and here's the good news about this dark news about layering, right? That man, we carry with us so much past conditioning. Our bodies carry it, not so much our minds. Just as our nervous system has been shaped by our past, each of us here has conditioning from our past. As we start becoming more aware of our present experience, right, we can start tracking our systems. Oh, here's how I'm feeling now. At every moment of the day, we become better at becoming detectives of our body. What's happening now? Is my mouth dry? Is my mouth wet? Are my eyes finding this too much or too less? As I track, I can start seeing where am I on my ladder, and therefore what do I need to do to start feeling more safe? And there can be things that you actually do. For someone, it can be listening to some music, or moving a certain way, or maybe going for a walk, or maybe saying no to something, or maybe stretching, or maybe seeking a friend and connecting with somebody outside. It could be different things and different situations. But when we know where we are, then we know how to go somewhere else. And we don't know where to go if we don't know where we are. Right? So the first step is where am I on my ladder? And then as I become better and better at tracking that, I know how to go where I want to go. This can happen in so many ways. I don't know, it's already 10:15.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the energy is in the group. How does it?
Maybe another 5 more.
5 more minutes? So there is this one, but I feel like it's too much. I think then let's just, any more questions and we can.
I just have one.
Yeah, sure.
Like the dorsal vagus state.
Yeah.
I know I have been there, the period of immobility, probably for hours together at a time. Unless there is some external stimuli, I need to kind of like move of it. Some forceful external stimuli, and I got to go to work and do something on a particular day. I just like want to go and freeze myself. So how do you kind of like regulate that? I mean, too long a period of staying there, it's not like helping as well.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of like, what is the kind of like internal stimuli that you can give yourself more of a state?
So it depends. Now, if, as we've spoken, each of these states have their healthy functions, right? There are times of the day that you need sympathetic activation, especially for play, when we're socially connected, but we're playing a sport. And then there are times when you need to be still. Like when you need to sleep, you should be not feeling the need to move, right? So if you're not talking about a healthy dorsal vagal state, but you're talking about a defensive strategy state where it's you have work to do, it's the daytime, but you can't move. Are you speaking about that kind of a state?
Yes, sometimes it does happen,
That
right?
makes
Like there are days, bad days.
Yeah, of course. So there are many resources. This is where the word resource comes in, where you can seek people who make you feel safe, welcome, co-regulation, right? Of that word that I brought, where when I feel safe, your nervous system picks up that information from me and you will feel safe. You might all remember somebody in your life whom you feel very instantaneously, I like being near that person. Not even talking to that person, but just near the person. It can be a pet or it can be a person, right? You just feel a sense of that's safe, right? There are some smiles in the room, right? So, one could be reaching out to someone like that. Or even just connecting with the memory of that and feeling your body. And usually making small movements, because when you're at the bottom of a ladder, it's harder to come up. It's easier to go down, it's harder to come up. Unfortunately, right? Evolution needs to work a little bit, a few more million years and maybe that. Right. But this is where gentle movements which are organized, walking, gentle yoga, maybe some martial arts, slow, organized, where you sort of connect intention with movement, those kinds of things, but going very slowly, not like bam, let me do aerobics for 1 hour. Not like that's not going to work. You'll get injured. Your state doesn't support that, right? So going slow with small things that feel good. So maybe smelling something nice, touching something nice, colors that you like, things that resource you, that make your system feel more safe. Reaching out for those, and then track how you feel, see how that works. Maybe listening to something. Long exhalations. So it can be playing a wind instrument. If you do a pranayama practice, long exhaling. Because long exhalations bring back safety, regulates heart rhythm, brings it down, makes you feel more relaxed, less vigilant. Right? Singing, beautiful vagal toning is singing. Listening to music, all of these things.